All right. We are live. Hello, fellow malt brains. No, you do not need to adjust that dial. Your computer has a dial. I have questions. Don't worry, you're not hallucinating from that deli meat you had for lunch that you probably should have thrown out. I am not Kenny Gould. Kenny is enjoying a much needed some time off, and he graciously asked me to host this week's virtual happy hour. So here I am. My name is Harrison Hickok. I am 50% of the hosts of Drinking Socially, Untapped's podcast, and released every Wednesday. Check that out. Anyway, I also like short walks on the beach and salads that are mostly dressing and chicken. But enough about me. That is not why we're here. We're here because of Graft Ciders, duh. So Graft Ciders out of Newburgh, New York, was founded by siblings Kyle and Sara Sherrer with two goals in their site. So they wanted to pay respect to the old world style of cider making, but also simultaneously want to experiment with modern brewing techniques. And they're doing it. I mean, they're crushing it. They're knocking the cover off the ball. Along with Graft Ciders, Kyle is also the brains behind Backpack Brands, which includes Flora Wines and Hudson North Cider. So please raise a glass and join me in welcoming a somehow not exhausted Kyle Sherrer to the show. Kyle.
Hey, how's it going? How you been, Harrison?
Great, man. Yeah, man. Welcome. Thank you so much for making the time to hang out with us. You're like the Mark Cuban of cider makers, I feel like. You're doing all these things, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my latest venture, Cider Tank, a lot more booze and, competitive apple bobbing.
Yes. That's good. You can put the apples in the booze, and who needs water to bob and water when you have cider? I love it. And you guys
absolutely.
You were kind enough to hook me up with so much cider, so much cool swag and cider sport in a moment. But I wanted to ask you, what should we start today's show off with? It's a happy hour after all. What are we going to start today off with? What are we drinking?
Yeah, thank God. It's let's start with Farm Floor.
Yes.
I think cheers. I think this one is like one of like the cornerstone style ciders that we make. Graft cider is based on wild yeast. It's sour cider. It's dry tart. It's phenolic. It's got all the cool things that you'd find in a sour beer. And this cider in particular is kind of like the saison of the cider world. It's got some of those esters. It's got nice tart acidity, almost got mixed culture saison. And for us, this is really much inspired by Spanish Sidra, which is a European style cider. And that we take a lot of inspiration from all that stuff. It's I'm gonna take a sip with you.
Yeah, please do. I love it.
It's refreshing, this at 7:00. It's a good way to start happy hour for sure.
And we had the pleasure of meeting a couple weeks ago, virtually anyway, for Untapped's Go Hard Fest. It focused on not beers, malternatives, as we call them, ciders and seltzers and meads. It was great, and enjoyed your Birds of Paradise.
Yeah,
which was so cool. And kind of one of the things that jumped out to me when we were enjoying that was there were similarities. I'm getting a little bit in this one too, of kind of like a Goza style beer. There is like that that tart. It's so refreshing. It's very effervescent, but it's different.
Absolutely.
It's like it is, but it isn't, because you can taste the cider in there, which is of course in the apples, which is of course the kind of the whole show, or the main actor is it anyway. But yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean we take a lot of pride in, again, like you were saying in the beginning, like going back to the heritage of what cider was. I mean, back in the day when the farmers would bring the apples off the fields, they would be fermenting with wild yeast. They just press the apple things, put it in the cellar. Great, cellar temp is a reason for, because that's where they put it in the root cellar.
Right.
Pull it out as spring starts heating up and everyone got drunk. I think the tradition still happens in Spain.
Right.
So if anyone ever goes to the Basque region, great way to go to one of the sidrerias. Heck of a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that sounds right. Like a great night, and don't worry about the next day. Let's the future will take care of itself.
Hey man, farming's hard.
Right, and that's true too. I mean, I'll tell you what, that was something I was a brewer for many years professionally, and to this day, the best beer ever is the one after a day brewing. Or, I worked at a farm forever in the summers too. Like that beer, a cold beer after being on your feet all day, or a cold cider, it's different. It's just different. It tastes different. It feels different. It kind of hits you different than when you're sitting behind a desk all day. At least that's my experience. So yeah, I can imagine. That's probably a pretty wild time, but also just the kind of next level, being tired and enjoying amazing cider. Yeah, I hear you.
Absolutely.
So here we are. We're drinking craft cider. It's the 21st century. I feel like Marvel movies have really conditioned us all to like a good origin story. And so we're going to talk a lot about craft ciders tonight, but I know that this was not like stop one for you. You've been doing this for a long time, and kind of from our conversations earlier, like kind of saw what cider was and what cider could be, and you're taking us there. So can you talk a little more about that, kind of like where your journey began and kind of how we got to where we are today?
Yeah, it's long, convoluted, not very heroic in many parts, but it's all based around alcohol, so all good things. I started my first cidery right out of college. With my father. He had actually been a vintner, had gone to UC Davis, and we were taking more of like a historic old world approach, more like natural wine, as you would say today. Making just cider though. All in oak, fermented, using all ingredients for 150 miles. It was a really cool concept. But where we really started to see people, because I was, out there schlepping and pedaling around in my car, bringing like 6 cases around at a time, which was, a whole nother journey. That's like my hero story where I'm like, in the first scene, like getting beat up by the punk. And anyways,
that's right. Right. Go to the gym and you get stronger, and then you're 6 feet taller than the punk.
And then, my spider bite, I guess, would be when I went to, I just started getting noticed by some of like the better craft beer bars in DC and Baltimore, which is where the cider is based out of. Okay. And this was back in the heyday of big sours and big bottles. I mean, like the brewery, I remember like Tart of Darkness and all that stuff.
Yes.
So we kind of like were just coming out at the right time. Our stuff was a lot more sour than Graft is today, I would say, which was great back then. Now so much, I think, it lended a little more on the acetic side, but it got us noticed. And we started doing more and more distribution. Went really well up in New York City. And our distributors at the time were like, hey, if you brought this down into a can size format, then, we could, do something with this. And I was kind of already looking to kind of do my own thing and break out from Millstone. So, went up to the Hudson Valley. It's amazing compared to Baltimore. I mean, I love Baltimore, but there's mountains, there's valleys. I mean, I drove around. I'm like, I could live here. This is amazing.
Right.
What better place to be, than the second largest apple growing region?
Yes, I was going to say, right. A lot of history when it comes to apples there. My gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a great relationship. We have a 6th-generation farm doing all of our pressing. They source, about 90% of their apples from the Hudson Valley. And so just the concept of not only taking this European style cider, introducing the masses, which was back then like Crispin, I think had just been acquired. If people still remember Crispin, because they're about to be like on the way out, they had just been acquired by Coors, so that sweet cider was still at the forefront. And to this day, I was like, oh, why is no one doing sour cider yet? And that was 5 years ago. And now we're here and still no one's doing it. So I don't, it's good. It's good in the way that we've just really been able to stand out and capture the imagination, just really just push cider forward. It's been such a great journey,
Yeah. Absolutely, and I'm excited that I kind of got dropped in the middle of it 3 weeks ago at the Go Hard Fest for Untapped, because I'd kind of, as we talked about that night, for me, and I feel like a lot of people, like cider, our first impression of it was akin to kind of just like apple juice, like adult apple juice, right? And that was the kind of the image it had for a really long time. And when I had yours, I was like, this couldn't have been farther from apple juice. Like the Birds of Paradise is kind of like a Moscow Mule. So it was like almost like a cocktail in a can. So the last thing I was thinking about was apple juice when I had it. And you're making a great point there that like you kind of have followed along there. But why is not everybody else doing this? And that was kind of my next question. So you guys are doing it's different. I mean, you're doing sour cider using wild yeast as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that kind of is akin to like some of the older world traditions. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before anyone knew better, wild yeast was what made all alcoholic beverages to an extent. So just taking that approach of the wow moment was really, we were trying sour beers and all that stuff. But then when you try the Spanish, because there's three main regions of cider making, I would say. There's, if I go to Europe, I'd probably be poo-pooed and all that stuff because there's probably many more regions. But the main ones, we know of and think of having very distinctive styles is Spain, France, and the UK. Each one very different. Spanish Sidra, very, very more acidic, more on the style of, I say, with Farm Floor at the end of the day. I think the homage is Farm Floor's industrialized Sidra. We even use a big, in there too, they use these huge fooders, which are large oak barrels. So we do the same with Farm Floor. And it's kind of like a Solera program where it's a layer cake of age. Every time we make it, we pull out about 10% of this 75 barrel or 2,500 gallon oak foeder and then put back in 1 month aged juice. But we've been stacking that for the last 4.5 years of Graft. So we've never emptied it. It's a cool homage. And then UK style on the flip side, very low acid, high tannin. And because of the high tannin and the yeast and the Brett, they actually eat the tannin and you're getting like a lot of farmhouse characteristics. And by farmhouse, I mean like Band-Aid, shoe leather. Ooh. But I'm into that weird kind of stuff, Maybe not everyone. There's a reason why I think we chose Spanish instead of British to pursue. But, when I'm at home, like I love drinking British cider. It's really great, fun stuff. Really messed up, but in a fun way.
But in a fun way. And I mean, to your point, if you look at kind of the parallel in craft beer, like sours, as you just said, I mean, it took off. They had their heyday a couple of years ago, and they still are, kind of in pockets of the country and the world, like growing. I remember talking with Vinny at Russian River, who are very well known for their sours. And I lived in Philadelphia at the time. And he was like, we just send all our sours from other markets to Philadelphia. This is 10 years ago. It's like, because they don't sell there, but you guys drink it up. And now that's not the case. They're all over the place. So these things, obviously, like they'll kind of take off sometimes geographically in places, and so-and-so tells someone else, you see your friend checking it Untapped or whatever, you learn about it, and then you go out and find it, and so on. But so my question, which if I remember correctly, was, so to that end, when you guys are kind of, looking at this and trying to think about, doing that style and making something that maybe is, as you said, with the British style, like really funky right now. I remember when that was like in beer, this is weird. It's a barnyard, kind of tastes like a horse. And it's still a little niche, but more people are open to it. So, I mean, maybe it's only a matter of time before, what you're crazy, thing you think nobody would enjoy, but yourself is like the next, Farm Floor or something like that. It's so funny, right? How like people, Vinny used to say with hops, the lupulin threshold of people is growing or it's changing. The meaning, like they just want more.
That's funny.
Like it used to be, 80 IBUs was hoppy and you just wanted more. So obviously funk is different, but some parallels there maybe where it's like an acquired taste, but as soon as you get it, you're like, well, now where's the next one? One wasn't enough. So anyway, absolutely. I love that you guys are right there. And you're already like thinking about other ways to make this exciting. Not that you need to keep thinking of them, but you're just doing it naturally. And that's probably why you guys are having such success.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like, again, it was just so cool to drink Birds of Paradise and be like, what in the world? And have that light bulb go off and really kind of remind me of like early days of sours and craft beer and telling my friends other places outside of Philadelphia about it. And then being like, sour beer, what? I don't like that. Doesn't taste like and I try to like kind of water it down and be like, it tastes like Sour Patch Kids.
Of course. Of course.
And they drink it and be like, this is not exactly what you described.
Don't want to lead off with, shoe leather and horse blanket, not really, the words to get people going.
I know. True. But again, but also, some people will hear that and go, "Oh, I'm a cider explorer, beer explorer. Like I want that thing that is weird, Smoke beers, same thing. A lot of people
Totally.
are like, I don't want to drink an ashtray. And I'm like, you're not thinking about this correctly, but you'll come around. You'll figure it out. But it's so cool you guys are doing stuff the way that you are. And I'm with you. Like, I'm curious why more people aren't like, hey, sour beer taken off, sour cider is taken off. Let's land in the middle. But you guys are there already. So yeah.
Been doing it before it was cool. I mean, I still don't think it's cool, but at least we're trying to push it, and it's been a lot of fun. I just think it's such a unique flavor. It's like, why not just explore it as deeply as you can? And the fact that we're doing it, I mean, we're not alone. There's other, producers out there, but not really not really at the scale yet. But it's like, if we're at the forefront and we can make a difference inside a category, I think that's the most exciting thing. Whereas beer, like, there's so many actors, right? And there's so many different styles coming out. Yep. It's almost like, have we hit, like, is there anything else that can be done in beer? And people always said no. But now you see all these slushy seltzers coming out. It's like, all right, well, it's not beer anymore. They're just moving into something else, which is totally fine. I think innovation is a good thing overall. It just, it's so nice to be able to have a category that no one's really operating in the same way, and just being able to kind of own it and drive it and say, well, there's no rules here. We get to do whatever the heck we want. Yep. Which is why we make cocktail-inspired ciders. Right. And again, cider is a fantastic vehicle for flavor because it's so light, it doesn't get in the way of other flavors. And not that beer does, but it does still have maltiness, which is like, it's a very distinctive flavor. It doesn't pair with everything well. Like, ooh, I want a refreshing malty mimosa. Yum. Just love that malt, that orange malt. Right. So I just think there's so many more options where you can pivot with the flavor of cider, which really makes it a lot of fun to work with.
I agree. Yeah. And for whatever reason, maybe you'll probably be able to explain it better than to me, but I feel like even in ciders, you can carbonate it higher than beer and it tastes better. Sometimes you have over carbonated beer. It's like abrasive almost on your tongue, but the body of the cider, to me, it's like, it makes it more effervescent, the carbonation, but also it's like it's just so smooth. Is that kind of what I'm talking about? It's like a little,
absolutely,
mouth feels a little different and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, beer's thicker, right? It's not thick, but it's thicker, and cider's so light, which, better or worse, everyone's drinking, a lot more people are drinking hard seltzers or lighter beverages. I mean, it's great to make a beverage that's super light and refreshing. Right. For better or worse, the stuff clocks in at pretty much 6.9%. Right. So going to put you on your butt a little faster, but nothing wrong with that.
Right. That's okay. As long it's on the can, you know what you're getting into. Speaking of on the can, you mentioned this a minute ago, and I'm pumping to jump here. So I saw on your Instagram recently posting about Captive Strangers, the pineapple blueberry slushy cider. And immediately I looked at it. It's amazing. It looks beautiful. And then I was like, what's a slushy cider? How is this different? And lo and behold, you actually sent me some. So let's crack this open from Book of Nomad. This is Captive Strangers. But, and let's talk about this because, I mean, again, if it's so interesting to me that cider has gone from like cider to craft cider to now catching up with as wild as craft beer is. Like, as you just said, the innovation going on in cider must have just been over the past 5 years, like what beer did in the past 20. It really feels exponential, and that makes it also more exciting too. You kind of feel like every day something crazy happening. Anyway, you open it up. I'm going to open mine up. Tell me about this. What in the world is a slushy cider? Tell me more about Captive Strangers.
Well, again, we kind of take the reins with the creativity. I mean, obviously, we stand on the shoulders of giants when it comes to craft beer, but we try to approach everything with the flavor of cider in mind. I think the best part about what we do is with beer and all that stuff, they're trying to achieve fruity flavors. Well, this is 100% fruit. So, wow, it's easy, a little bit easier to start with. And then with what we did special with these, for us, it's all about, number one, it's all about recreating nostalgia. So from like the color to the kind of over the top flavors, you're getting tons of pineapple on the nose. Just kind of like, it's almost like this like electric pineapple, that Baja Blast. but not artificial. It's all like real. And because you're starting with more of a fruit flavor, you can go a lot lower in the sugar. So like this is like 3 grams for an entire can of sugar, which is amazing. Compared to the smooges of the world, right. I would assume a lot less. They don't put the caloric content, but
right. Yeah, but you can the thickness of it, I think, reveals there's quite a bit of calories in there. And that's right, a whole other element of this is that, as you said, like you're starting with juice, you can get all these fruity flavors without having to dump in a bunch of adjunct sugars. You don't need it. You don't need to do it.
And one of the fun things we do with these is we ferment half of the fruit, and then we use the other half as the sugar portion. So you're getting a blend of both the fermented flavors, which is, in my opinion, very different from the actual flavors of real fruit. And it's funny, people, on that note, sometimes they're like, oh, I love strawberry. I want a fermented strawberry cider. Like, no, you don't. Right. Fermented strawberry tastes very different from sweet strawberry. And it's nice to kind of blend these two. So you're still getting a fermented beverage and the fermented flavor, but you're also getting it in tandem with the real fruit. And I think for us, outside of cider, flavor is just so darn interesting. We're just so intoxicated by the journey, I would say, which is why we have so many brands and all that stuff. And I mean, the Slushy is just, nostalgia, in a glass. It's great.
Right.
It's blueberry, pineapple.
The pineapple is electric pineapple is it. It's like pineapple just kind of zips me right in the taste buds. This is amazing. And again, like with all the sugar in here is pretty much fermented out. So like it's not cloying. Like there's so many of the big craft beers, but they're crazy. Again, a lot of fun. Yeah. I'll drink them and feel like I'm drinking like the milk at the bottom of a cereal bowl. Like, oof. There's a lot, like I am going to be feeling this in the morning, where this one, it's just fruit juice that's fermented, and it's a totally different experience just from like the way it sits on your tongue. And this is wild, man. This is awesome.
Yeah. Be great for, all these hot days that are coming up, because it's just so much lighter, and it just, you're not drinking, Jamba juice.
Right. I mean, just let the yeast, let the cider do what it's going to do, and just become this. Don't to dump a ton of stuff in your drink to, kind of fake fruity things. You can just use the fruit.
Absolutely.
I love it. And so something also really cool about this cider was it looks like, so I got a lot of amazing stuff for you guys. I feel very spoiled. And one of the things that jumped out to me is part of this Cider Explorers Club. So I got it in my pocket here. I'm trying to show it off, but I got, which some of you guys do, I got this basically a graphic novel that's talking about each cider that's in the box, and there's Captain Stranger's right there. So this is like a whole night. I could sit alone in my office and turn my computer off and read this and drink this and kind of be alone with my thoughts and have a great time, which is very rare these days to have like an experience in your house. You're not like that's attached to a screen, or maybe I'm really a lot about myself, but I hope I'm speaking generally. But anyway, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the Cider Explorers Club. Kind of what is it? What are these cool things I have in my hand, and how can everyone else out there kind of be a part of this? And again, kind of what it's all about.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if anyone wants to see some of the cool stuff we're doing, our Cider Explorers Club, pretty much we come up with 2 new ciders a month. Some of them are Cider Club exclusives, like we did a whole cool Imperial Cider series, which I think we're going to try a little later. Spoiler alert, but it's a really cool way of engaging with not only the ciders that we're making, but the art and the story. We do like cider making notes with myself, which if 24 minutes isn't enough for you guys, you know where to come next. And then we do mixology. We do have a local mixologist, and he does a cocktail with each of the different ciders. You can make them at home. We try to keep them pretty simple with the ingredients. And then, I mean, one of the cool things is what you showed is the comic book. So Book of Nomad is, I think, the coolest series we do. We come out with a new one every month, and each one focuses on a 3-month period, and it tells a story. It's in an arc, a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you get 3 different, things that are not only story-based, but it's also concept-based. Yeah. So right now, we're in slushy season because we're in summer.
Yeah.
And we just did a strawberry watermelon first, then blueberry pineapple now, because we're in the middle.
Right.
And then the end is going to be mango coconut. So, all the good stuff. And then we're doing Nordic meads next. More of like a, more of a, our artist gets really creative with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. It's a fun, the story's really there to provide just, really cool and fun artwork, but there is a story there and it follows a progress. And I think it also shows kind of the progress of the flavors throughout the thing. So it's not just, hey, here's a concept, here's one, and we might do more. It's like, we're going to, if we believe in a concept, we're going to make 3 of them so we can really explore what these concepts really mean and, how deep we can go into each of them. And then if we like it enough, we'll do it again next year for the same slot with different flavors and stuff like that.
I know. I love it. I just love how thoughtful everything is. The art, obviously the cider, which this one's blown my mind again. The artwork, the story. And then the next level is like, right, anyone can like make a great beer, a great cider, but to think about, all right, we have an idea for Slushy ciders. What is that? Let's explore it and explore it together and share with you guys as part of the Cider Explorers Club. That's really exciting, kind of and I feel like a lot of meaderies do, or some meaderies do this too, in their kind of their subscription or their memberships. You can like kind of be like an R&D tester for a meadery, and they'll send you a bunch of pilots up, and you can give them feedback and say that one was crazy, that one not so much, or whatever. So this kind of rings like that for me. It's very similar, where I feel like I'm again going on a journey with you guys, everyone else who's a cider explorer, but don't need to go and stand in line or be outside and uncomfortably hot. It can be comfy, house, reading stuff. I mean, it's great. It's a whole experience that I'm happy to be sitting in the middle of right now with you. I'm having a blast, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a fun thing to make, at the end of the day.
Right, and that's right. And that's so blessed. Yeah, and that's so important. And I think if you kind of, which you guys clearly are, keeping that at like the core, just having fun.
Absolutely.
You're not like trying to have fun. You're just having fun because it is fun and it shows in everything you're making and all this stuff that we're enjoying this evening. So
thanks.
Cider Explorers Club. Check it out, guys. I feel honored to have. I'm going to try to patch this in a thing. We'll see what I can do. I got a sticker. I'll get creative with it because it looks so great. I want to show it off. So we had Farm Floor. Started with kind of a more traditional cider. We had a slushy cider, kind of looking at the past, looking at the future. And if I follow craft beer logic, I would assume you have like an imperial or a barrel aged or barrel rested version of cider as well, which you kind of hinted at. So let's finish off with that. What are we going to drink next?
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's go to the Rum Imperial Cider, which, if you notice, is quite a departure graphically from a lot of our other stuff.
Love it.
And that's like one of the fun things that we get to kind of do. This was an Explorers Club exclusive because of the higher ABV.
Right.
It's a little harder in some states to be able to sell it at most locations. So we were like, you know what? I've been dreaming about doing this concept for about 5 years now. And actually, we were approached by a guy out of it is 12%, so I like to pour about 2 ounces at about 55 to 60 degrees.
Okay,
it's a good time, and you can see from the color itself. That's from all the high tannin juice that we use in there. So we had a guy out of Quebec, and he was I think French native, and he went to France and pressed apples over there and sent us the juice back. So this is a blend of 3 different traditional French apples. Higher tannin, used exclusively for cider over there, Tremlett's Bitter, Chisel Jersey, and Dabinet. And then we fermented that, and that's about 6%. So we fermented that, got it going, and then we fortified it again using French bittersweet concentrate, again from France, all the way up to 11% ABV, and then let that age, on wood for 8 months.
Wow.
After that, we decided to make 4 different versions of it, where we focused on a different spirit and a different wood. What we did, because it was a smaller batch, was we soaked we picked out different spirits that we really liked, and then we soaked them in the wood for about a week, and then infused them into the cider with a little more bittersweet fresh apple juice to provide that little hint of sweetness, and it just drinks at 12%. The rum one I'm really excited about because it uses Spanish cedar, and Spanish cedar is an extremely distinctive wood, and it's just so god darn delicious. Trying to keep my curse words down because I know we're no mics, So it's you just get all those kind of characteristics on the nose. It's somewhere in between like a barley wine meets Pommeau, which for Pommeau, it's a cider specific thing where they take Calvados, which is apple brandy, and then age it for about 3 years in oak with apple juice cut down to about 18%. So it's almost like this port sherry concept that just seems so weird. Like you never if you're not in my world, you don't know what Pommeau is. But when you think about it, it's an oxidized version of a cut product that both uses a high ABV spirit and then a sweet juice. And then that oxidizing effect is just so cool. And I just was like, what if we could make a barley wine meets triple meets, Pommeau? Like, what does that taste like? And we didn't know. And so we made it. And it tastes great. It's like, it's funny.
It does.
I brought, I bring home 2 cans and I forget 2 cans, like a whole bottle of wine. I'm like, oh, that's, can't.
Yep. That's right.
Only so many times.
Right. My roommate in college used to say the arm to elbow ratio is a little different for something like this. And he's right. But this is amazing. And you said, so cedar, obviously Spanish cedar, one of my favorite places in the world is any humidor in any cigar store. And this smell, the cedar obviously is what's inside the humidor most of the time. Yeah, I'm getting like that on the nose, and then there's kind of like a brandy thing happening. This is wild. And and I think just makes kind of the point I've been trying to make, and you've been making very well all night, that cider is such a great canvas to do anything on. And you guys are kind of figuring out what that next anything is in real time. And anyone out there that can get their hands on some Graft cider can be a part of that adventure, because I'm loving it, man. This is so cool.
Yeah, and we made 3 other versions. We did an Amaro one on cherry wood, a bourbon on American oak, obviously, and then Calvados, the thing that actually makes Pommeau, on French oak. Okay. So you get the kind of the experience of, because again, we don't want to just make one of something, because where's where's the testing, where's the A/B testing in that? Right. So being able to develop a couple different concepts really, I think, proves the merit of a project. Yeah. Or doesn't. We've not out of 130 products we made over the last 4 years. Some of them are better than others. I have my favorite children, if you will.
And I think you're allowed to. I mean, you're cranking them out. So and that's part of being your own critic is how you get better, all that stuff that I'm sure David Goggins or someone more motivated than me can say better. But and we're not alone. I mean, we're getting some cool comments in. Freya the Wanderer saying you're just describing this cider, yum, 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 which I could have said that and been just articulate, I think. But getting some cool comments out there. Doug Jones from New Zealand saying this is making him very thirsty. So
that's awesome.
Cheers to you. Enjoy a morning cider over there. And cheers. If you got permission from us.
Yeah, start your day off right.
Right. I love it. But I just want to thank you, Kyle, for hanging out with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sharing these ciders, your story, for telling people about Graft. And again, if you're curious about stuff, and I wish I had my hands on this, go to their website, check out Cider Explorers Club. You gotta see what they're doing and experience it yourself, because really, it was so obvious to me drinking the first cider you guys made that you're doing something that nobody else is, and this is an exciting space that I want more traditional craft beer fans to be aware of. So if you think you know what cider is, I challenge you to think again. And go check it out now, because again, and it's not just you guys. You mentioned there's some other, if they're not in New York and can't get Graft stuff,
there's other stuff
out there, which is they're doing really cool kind of cutting edge things. But for Graft ciders, so you guys ship from the website? Can you talk a little more about that, kind of where people can get your cider distribution and all that stuff?
Absolutely. So we're pretty much along the the Northeast coast and all the states up there. A little more spotty as you go west all the way to Colorado. Have a little bit of distribution like Japan, China, but if you really just want something in particular and you want to try us out, I'd recommend just, checking out our website. We ship direct. We have the shipping built into the cost. Great way of experiencing different kind of interesting ciders that we have available. So
that's amazing.
Wow. Or support us at your local shop if they're around.
Right. And I know beer shipping is difficult. Is cider shipping a little more forgiving, or what's kind of the range there?
Absolutely, because it's under wine laws, which is
perfect.
They've been building cult-based models for years and years now. So obviously they have the lobbying in place, and they crossed the barrier that all the distributors that have a chokehold on beer aren't allowing beer to do just yet. COVID obviously reduced those restrictions, and you saw a lot more shipping from beer. But yeah, cider and that wine affiliation has definitely helped us out on that front.
I love it. That's great. That's right. I forgot about that. It is much more forgiving if you're a mead maker, cider maker, to get your stuff to more people and ship it to more places. So great for all of us. So no excuse then to not go check this stuff out, everybody. But again, I want to thank you, Kyle. Thank you for your time tonight and sharing all the cool stuff. And
absolutely.
Yeah, guys, everyone check out Graft Cider. But cheers to y'all and cheers to you, Kyle. Thanks again.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right. That was amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in, for hanging out with me, with Kyle. Another virtual happy hour in the books. Kenny's going to be back from his car tour of the Southwest or whatever fun, cool thing he is doing next week, I believe. Until then, you can catch me wherever you want to. Listen to podcasts, Drinking Socially. It drops every Wednesday, a new episode. So hang out there with John and myself. We may be drinking some more ciders in the near future, but just had a killer Eisbach episode drop this week. You can find me online at that goofy hairy beard handle there on Untapped, wherever you do online things. And as a reminder, if you guys want to try more cool beer and stuff at home, the Beers Without Beards, a virtual beer fest. Those tickets go on sale tomorrow. Partner up with Halftime Beverage again. You can jump into their website and look up Beers Without Beards virtual beer fest for 2021 and grab those beers from places like Russian River and Allagash, New Belgium, Crown and Hops, Outer Range. I mean, it's a pretty impressive list. So go ahead and check that stuff out. Hope to see you guys there. But until next time, that'll do it for me tonight. Peace, punch, and Captain Crunch, guys. Cheers.